Think smooth, think connection. Any of those words that you can think of to make the notes hold together. That's what we need. Another way I strike the bar, besides my just normal way, I'll strike the bar in a dead stroke. Right? And if you noticed it last night, I used it in Mokure when I went like this with my left hand. And in my right hand, I just used the nodes up here to sort of fill in the overtones and dead sticked it. Here, it kind of fills in nicely. I like doing things on the marimba that create new colors. I must admit that I find marimba recitals boring. Have you guys ever gone to a marimba recital and been bored by the sound? And sort of felt bad because, you know, this is my instrument. I'm supposed to like this. It's supposed to be nice. But really come away rather bored because the color is the same. It begins in the beginning, it's wood, and it ends in the end, and it's the same. And I change sticks a little bit, but changing sticks, you know, between you and me, between us, right? Changing sticks really seems to be more for the player than it is for the audience in many ways. I try to make my stick changes really contrasting because I think it's almost an indulgence that doesn't really work as well as it seems. Sometimes people can't even tell when you change sticks. So that's number 2, dead stick. Then I have another one that I use, which is a drop stick that I call drop stick. Did you guys notice it last night that I used it a couple times in the thing? There was a part that went. And then it took one of the notes off and went, and did the same thing again, took another group of notes off. You see it how at least one, notice how I dead stick to the top. And then I went. I'll tell you how that came about. That's what I call my drop stick. That came about when I was playing Torse 3. Does anybody know Torse 3? There's a section of Torse 3. Let me give it to you because there's going to be a lot of little things in front of it. Measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Measure 8. You see it? Where the right hand plays this. Everybody have it there? And the left hand goes. See it? All right, well. It's got written here in the music, and I got the original score to this. I was the first person to play this piece in this country, so when I got the music, it was a handwritten manuscript. And he had this thing here without the rolls on the bottom. So I thought to myself, the first thing, of course, I did was I looked at it and said, well, he forgot to put the roll in. And I said, you know, it's not true because he has an Oshia part. An Oshia means if you can't play it that way, play it another way. Everybody understands what that means, Oshia? So it says Oshia tremolo is always if you can't do it as a single note, do it as a tremolo. So I did this. It's a little theme of the piece that keeps coming back and forth, coming back several times. And I thought it was very nice. I'll show you what it is. It's there. Take a look at the next to the last line on that page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line next to the last. You see it? Here it is again. Right, it's a little theme that comes there. And then if you look at the next to the last line, the first measure, you'll see it again. See it? With some variations in between. So it keeps coming back, and I thought if it keeps coming back like that, I can try to bring it out in some sort of a different way. So I decided to do this. But it wasn't different enough for me. Why does he have a tenuto sign over there? Do you notice? There's a tenuto sign over each one. Oh, no. So I thought I'd like to try to do something different. And that's what I started dropping. Now, some people say that it's really almost like a dead stick, but it's not quite. That's a dead stick. And this is the drop. It changes the color somehow, and that's what I'm after. Eric Forrester came up to me afterwards, and he said, you know, you did some nice things in that, in the Mokure. He said, I didn't know what you were doing. But I sort of looked up and said, geez, that sounds nice. And I thought to myself, great, that's what I want. I don't want you guys to sit there and say, drop stick. Oh, very nice. Now dead stick. Aha, dead stick. I hear that. One-handed roll. Nice. Right? You know, it's too technical. We don't want to think that way, guys. We want to think the music. We want to get directly to the music, and that's what I'm after. And if somebody in the audience can say, especially if it's not a percussionist, of course Eric is, but I've had other people say to me that they've heard colors that they never heard in the marimba before. If somebody can come up to me who's not a pianist, not a marimba player, and say that they've noticed something like that, that's what I'm after. Because he doesn't know what I'm doing. It doesn't matter. And that's what I'm after. Who cares about what it's called or what it is? I'm just passing this stuff on to you in a technical way to let you know what it is. Okay, so those are my attacks. I have also used other kinds of attacks in the past. For example, I have tipped my sticks. Is anybody familiar with the beginning of time? Right? Everybody know that piece? Has these little fives in the beginning that are set over 6. It almost sounds like, right? But it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be like this. It starts out with that in the beginning, sort of lays that down as kind of a little ostinato, kind of fill up the room with that sound, and then it does variations on that. So what I have done in the beginning is this. Just sort of whisper. I've even done this sometimes. Rubbed at sticks. I don't know if it works. It's kind of fun. You know, like that. And then I've kind of jumped down, let it become. And then finally. So that's another way. Tipping the sticks. Obviously what happens is that we get less of the bar, of the note, and more of the felt. And it works very nicely. Almost like a two-tone mallet. Sounds very much like a two-tone mallet. Rubbing the sticks sometimes. What else have I done? Played in conjunction with this at different places in the bar. I may start like this on the nodes. And now I go to the edge. Centers, stay on here. Now I go to here. Right? We got notes, but we were hearing all sorts of different sounds. That's what we're after. Discover this stuff. Look for it. Dig. Try to find out where you're going to get some different sounds. Let's talk a little bit about a staccato stroke and a legato stroke. Most of the time, I told you before, I try to get a legato stroke. But every once in a while, I'll try to get a more. You hear the difference? Holding the stick a little bit tighter, not letting it come up, not doing this, but rather. What I notice the sound tends to go ow, ow more instead of da, tends to go dow, and I think that's what I'm looking for. Ow. Instead of, I don't know, is it my imagination? Some of this is, and that's what makes it fun. Some of it, I must admit, sometimes I'm not sure if I'm really doing it. But I say, you know, I'm doing it anyway, because I think it's there, you know, and maybe I'll get it across to you that I'm trying to do something. All right, how about the different kinds of rolls? Now, here's where I did a lot of things, if you noticed, in the Mokore last night, and I'll show you a couple of things that I do in some other pieces I have also. Let me get it up here. The most basic, of course, is just the simple one note after the other, muscle roll. Everybody knows about that, one after the other, easy. Okay? Watch carefully. Listen. Got it? Let me try it again. open it up a little bit more. Now listen. Any difference? What do you notice? It's not a ripple. That's a ripple. I seldom use ripple because I don't find ripple homogeneous. If you want to make the sound, if you want every note to sound, play ripple. But if you want it to be homogeneous, then that's more homogeneous. Right? I hear all the notes as a chord. I mean, it's sort of like asking the woodwind section of the orchestra, you know, clarinets go do 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 do, and flutes you go boop 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 boop, and you know, it's jumping around all the time instead of one note that tries to blend together. But I find, especially when I separate my hands, I find that this will happen. What? Listen to the top notes. What do you hear? Bop 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 bop. Right? Of course, we hear this gorgeous chord in the orchestra. But the truth is that what you hear is bop, 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 bop. So what you've got to do is somehow get away from that. One of the most important things we can do, I'll talk about this at the Marimba Masterclass, one of the most important things we can do is listen to ourselves and be honest. If we play and the sound goes, face it, that's what it sounds like. Now, what can I do about it? Don't think it sounds like this most gorgeous chord, because it doesn't. So what I tend to do is in my left hand, together, and this is where it goes away from the ripple, and in my right hand, open. And now, it's harder for you to find the pop, 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 isn't it? Instead of ripple, sounds like it's underwater. Yeah, it's a half ripple. It's really what it is. It's a half ripple. It's a Rosen ripple. That's it. Der Rosenrippel. It's a German term, you know. You guys wouldn't know that. German, but German words. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you about my independent roll. My independent roll is as often not a rotary as it is that. I found that I had real trouble bringing the top voice out. You ever notice that with a ripple roll? That guy always comes out. So and what it amounts to is this one goes and this one follows. That's what I use in this. Now I hear that top voice. I was playing the piece and I was twisting. I can't even do it very well. Maybe that's the reason I do it this way, because I can't do this one very well. But I found myself, hear that voice? And I couldn't stand it. And it was an example of me listening to myself and trying to adjust because of what I heard, not because of what I was doing. And so that's why I went to this kind. Yeah, I think I do. I go like this, and then this one follows. It means holding this one very loosely. I use it, let me just finish with some more of these rolls, and then I'll talk to you about that, what I call the triplet roll, which I used a lot last night, if you noticed. Did you notice when I was doing things like this? That's a perfect example of what I said before about hearing it going ta 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 ta. And as much as I want it to sound like this gorgeous mellifluous thing, it doesn't. It sounds like beep 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 beep. So that's why I went to that. I mean, after all, if I asked you to come up here and play this for me, I'll play the bottom, you play the top, what would you do? You'd go, wouldn't you? And that was the reason I did it.